Hello, AP Lang teachers. Jim Jordan, Sacred Heart Cathedral Prep in San Francisco. And today I want to share with you a few strategies for helping your students focus on learning over scoring. So I'm calling my little song and dance here the mythology of the AP score. And we all know there's tremendous amount of mythology surrounding those numbers. We want to try to get our students not to focus on the numbers. How do you do that? The first thing we need to know is that nobody passes or fails an AP exam. That is a very popular myth. College Board itself is a nonprofit and cannot dictate university policy, so each exam score simply represents a recommendation by an experienced team of college and university faculty with expertise in the subject area and very clear metrics for measuring college level proficiency. Every spring, a representative number of college students take the full exam. I'm not exactly sure how many, but it's a statistically valid number. Their essays are mixed right in with all the others at the reading, so we have no way of knowing which ones are which. We can't identify those at the reading. And then once the reading ends, those scores are separated and used for standard setting. The score range, as you can see here, for students earning A's in college equivalent courses becomes the cutoff for a 5. Those in the A minus to B range set the cutoffs for 4, and so on. It's worth noting here that there is no line between 2 and 3 as far as qualification goes. In the College Board's recommendation, a 2 means the student is possibly qualified. Universities, I've never heard of one giving credit for a 2, but that's really up to the school. It's not the College Board's decision. So this is, in essence, telling us that college professors set the standards annually, which is why we can never fully predict how many points it will take to earn a particular score. All of those AP, PASS, web calculators, those kinds of things, they're based on a recent set of standards, but they can only approximate. This is one of the reasons we want to avoid focusing on scores in our classrooms and instead focus on benchmark language for each skill. Fortunately, all of the College Board resources published in 2019 are designed to help us do exactly that. They provide us with effective benchmark language for designing curriculum and assessment focused on skills rather than scores. And they range from AP Central, which a lot of us have been using for years, to the CED itself, AP Classroom. Even the College Board moderated online communities offer everything we need to help our students focus on learning rather than scoring. I'll show you this excerpt from page 4 of the CED just to point out how strongly the AP curriculum development people feel about formative and summative assessment practices. These are the two main lesson planning tools in AP Classroom: personal progress checks and the AP question bank. The question bank is something we can use to design either formative or summative assessments, but those personal progress checks that align with each of the 9 units are limited to formative for us. And in fact, the College Board tells us they cannot be used to evaluate teacher effectiveness or assign letter grades to students. Any such misuse is grounds for losing school authorization to offer AP courses. There's even an 800 number at the bottom of page 4 of the CED for anyone that wants to report what the College Board calls misuse of what's designed to be a formative assessment. So we want to take this very seriously. If you're already using a formative summative model, you'll understand this metaphor. The idea that formative is when the chef tastes the soup, and summative is when the guests taste the soup. And the result here is that you wind up, if it's done well, with a classroom that is focused on learning. If you're not using this model already, you might be battling what some people call a transactional classroom. In traditional grading models, students learn very early on that anything they do will be traded for currency in the form of grades. Now, this can certainly be an effective motivator, but by design, it focuses our students on scoring more than on learning. And for many parents, this is all they know. So entire families can become obsessed with grades, especially in AP courses. And I know it's tempting to lose our nerve a little bit with students who we might call grade grubbers, but the truth is it's not their fault. This is a systemic issue, and kids are taught to think this way by kind of an antiquated system. So how do we get out of it? Well, if we're focusing our unit design on the formative assessment model, we want to operate almost like a coach of an athletic team, using daily practices to prepare for weekly games. Practices are formative. They're critically important for learning the skills required to succeed, but there's no external pressure of a scoreboard or fans in the stands. The games, of course, would be the metaphor for our summatives. Quick comparison: formatives are regular daily practice. The summatives come at the end of a unit. These are the ones we can attach grades to. We want to provide constructive feedback, language feedback, not necessarily scores on our daily formative assessments. And then we use benchmark feedback and even grades on summatives. but we still want to use the benchmark language. So the formatives are low stakes. We want our students to feel comfortable, just like in a sport. If you boot a ground ball in baseball practice or softball practice, the coach might not be very happy with you, but probably the coach is going to say, "Okay, we're going to be fine. Let's do it again. Let's practice again," and you go until you get better. If you do it in a game, you might cost your team a run. You might even cost your team the game itself, and you get the metaphor. Essentially, formative assessment not only informs students about their learning, but it informs us about our teaching. That's the soup metaphor. While summative assessments are designed simply to assess what students have learned. And of course, there's a formative component to that too in our curriculum design. The resources the College Board gives us are really helpful in creating both formative and formative and summative assessments. We've got on page 19 of the CED, all 22 skills that students are expected to learn in this course. And as you know by now, probably they're in each of the 4 big ideas. These 22 skills are separated at the bottom into reading here and writing here. The evens are writing, the odds are reading skills, reading first always. So you can use that language in your formative and summative assessments. The key thing is you don't want to attach numbers, of course, to the formative ones if you can avoid it. The unit guides are very helpful in the CED for this sort of language. You'll find some of these essential knowledge statements, in fact, repackaged as questions in the CED. So you have lots of different ways to adopt that language in your own assessment practices. And then even, I'm almost hesitant to go here, the new 1 through 6 rubrics that we're using on the 3 free response questions can be very helpful. If you want to use the numbers in your summative assessments, that's fine. I wanted to strongly discourage you from using scores on formative assessments, but I want to encourage you to use the language of these rubrics. When we focus, you'll get this question a lot from students. How do I get the sophistication point? Well, what's happened there is that student's already starting to slip into a transactional mindset. So we want to spin that the other way and say, well, that's not the right question to ask. The question is, how do you write a sophisticated analysis here? Okay, the language down here, and this is just the 1-page version. The 3-page version has much more. The language here is what we want to use in our formative assessments to keep students focused on the skills and not focused on scores. If you've been in these models in the past, you know that formative assessment and summative assessment combined in a teamwork setting will indeed yield school improvement. One of the metaphors I like to use here is my AP workshops. When I walk into my classroom at school, my students want to know, what do you want me to do? How do I earn points? And it's all on me, right? In an AP workshop, I walk in the room and the person being held accountable is me. Everyone in the room looks at me and asks me, are you going to cover this? And can you show me how to do this? And when are you going to get to this? And I've got to deliver. I'm being assessed in these workshops more than you are. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And at the end, of course, you evaluate me. So ideally, that's how schools should work. And a formative assessment model will help you get there. Thanks very much for being with me today. I hope you found this helpful.